Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NBA center Ryan Hollins.
Couple bump fakes, leans in, shot blocked by Ryan Hollins. Hollins sent that into the third row.
6 rebounds and 8 assists.
Hollins climbs the stairs.
Down the floor. Ryan Hollins! He is the high jumper!
That's what I want to see. Give me some gunpowder and throw the hammer down.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Hollins, part of Bucher and Friends, under the umbrella of the United WeCast Network. I'm Rick Bucher. You can read my stuff on Bleacher Report. You can find me on Twitter at Rick Bucher. He is Ryan Hollins, former NBA center. You can find him on ESPN, NBA Radio, and on Twitter at the Ryan Hollins. Please follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. Our producer, John Libby, puts a lot of content out besides the podcasts.
Yes, he does.
And it's entertaining.
Yes, he does.
Without question. Sometimes he goes a little overboard. Sometimes I question some of the comments, sense of humor. But nonetheless, there's more good than dubious. And everybody has their own flavor. So you may find the stuff that I think is a little beyond the pale to be right up your alley. In any event, sample it and find out for yourself. All right. This is a Friday, so we are getting into all of the Friday games, picking the against the spread and the over-under on behalf of sportsbetcollective.com. Give you more information on that later. But I did want to get to a couple of other things that have transpired in the league prior to Friday night's games. And I wanted to start with the double overtime game in San Antonio. San Antonio winning in double overtime over the Oklahoma City Thunder, 154-147. LaMarcus Aldridge with 56 points. Russell Westbrook. This is the thing. Russell Westbrook. 24 points, 13 rebounds, 24 assists. Huge numbers. And I want to start with the Spurs because I did write them off. I wrote them off. I said, Pop's ready to go. DeMar, LaMarcus, you just don't have bona fide stars. They're qualified stars. And the injuries that they had at the beginning of the year, I didn't see it. And not only have they been winning, but they have been, they're 25-18, reestablished their home court dominance, 18-5 at home. But offensively, they are off the charts. They have been phenomenal offensively. They're better offensively than they are defensively. Help me understand when you have Davis Bertans and you don't really have a bona fide point guard and you have a 2-guard in DeMar DeRozan who can't shoot the 3. What's the formula, Mr. Hollins, that has delivered us this San Antonio Spur team once again?
There's one big turnaround. His name is Derek White. Derek White has been playing lights out. And the one thing about San Antonio is Pop went kind of, remember, he goes, I hate the 3 ball. But he trended in a way that we talked about, Rick, where he just had all these shooters across the floor, all these shooters, Bryn Forbes, Bertan, all those guys, Bellinelli. Yep. But what they were missing is the defense. And the big defense that they were missing was on the ball because in the Western Conference, if not in the NBA, you got an elite point guard night in and night out. And Bryn Forbes was starting at the 1. Now, he's an excellent shooter. He works hard, but he lacks for some athleticism. You know what I'm saying?
And he doesn't have real size.
Exactly. And Derek White pretty much provides that. And offensively, he hadn't been great, but he's actually much improved. When Pop puts a guy in the system, somehow he figures out how to make shots. And they played against the Nuggets. He went home to play against the Nuggets, and he's got great size. And then all of a sudden, the guy just gets confidence at, had about 20 or so tickets at the game. And he goes off and starts scoring the ball and kind of doing his thing. And he hadn't looked back since then. But the reality is, defensively, they have gotten better. And LaMarcus Aldridge, just I can say from my time playing against him, he's always been a headache for me. He's always been a headache because not only can he shoot the basketball, but he knows how to draw fouls on a go-to move. And he will shoot that right-hand hook 1,000 times or get fouled if you don't stop him. So when I look at the Spurs, Derek White changes their defense. They kind of can play pound for pound with anybody because he's got great size, like you said, Rick. I mean, Rick, you got to think that Pop wasn't just going to say this is who we are. And
right.
Like, bro, you couldn't have thought that.
No. I didn't think that. I just didn't think that he had enough to work with in this instance to make it happen in the Western Conference. And some of this, I believe, is the Western Conference has its – I mean, you look across the board. There aren't any dominant teams. You could look at every single team in the Western Conference. As much as we like to talk about how powerful the Western Conference is, every team has its Achilles heel. Every team has there aren't any unbeatables there. They all have their up and downs. They all have their weakness that can be exploited. And so and I do believe this. I believe that San Antonio, once again, they will have a impressive regular season record. I do not expect that this is going to carry over in the playoffs. If I'm one of the top seeds, I would love to have San Antonio early because they're going to make me play disciplined basketball, but they don't have the star power that is going to knock me out. Not if I'm in the Rockets with James Harden or the Thunder with Paul George and Russ Westbrook. The Nuggets might be that one team where they could create some headaches for because I don't know I do know who their go-to guy is, and it's Jamal Murray. And if Derek White locks him up, then okay, so now we got a puncher's chance of making this happen or pulling an upset. So, I didn't even expect. Honestly, I thought they might be on the fringe of missing the playoffs. I thought they might miss the playoffs this year, and I certainly don't believe that now. But I am once again wildly impressed with what Pop has been able to do with. Let's face it. I mean, you go down that roster. You're talking Derek White. Derek White is the savior for the San Antonio Spurs. I don't disagree with you, but how many teams around the league where you could say that that's what has occurred, that Derek White has come in?
Well, you've seen Pop do that with Danny Green. You've seen him do it with the number of guys that just kind of fill a position. Hey, can you defend? I'll teach you how to hit an open shot. Bruce Bowen was undrafted. You know what I'm saying? Sure. He's done this for a long time.
But he's doing it with having to mix and match who his stars and his nucleus is. Because while LA got the 56 against Oklahoma City, LaMarcus and what he gives you, that ain't a steady production. Like there are nights where he's on fire and you go, he's one of the best power forwards in the game. And then there are other nights where you go, I guess he doesn't want to play tonight. Like, what's the big deal about him?
There's no more fives in the game, and he ends up ruining your matchups. But there's no more fives, and he's not the greatest shot blocker, but comparative to the centers in the West, he can get it done because there's nobody that's going to pound him out. And he's gotten more. He's like added a physicality to his game, right? Rick, you've seen that,
Yes.
He's a little dirtier, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think he's getting that old man strength.
Yes.
And he can't quite move the same way. So it's like, okay, I'm going to have to bull you a little bit to get to where I need to go. I think also I would say that where he plays, like living off of a mid-range jump shooter as a big is a wrinkle that most teams they're really not used to playing against that. And if he gets it going, it kind of screws up how you're setting up your defense because you're defending him in a different way. And obviously he can get there, but even when he gets to his spot, it's still, he's trying to get to a spot 5-6 feet from the rim. He's not trying to get right there and finish on you. He's still doing it from a distance that is a little bit different than the way everybody else plays.
There's just no bigs, bro. There's no bigs. He came in against the Clippers. Boban gets to start on him. Worked the game, and that was a field day. He just popped. Gortat came in later, but he was just too big for Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl was having problems scoring over him, and then he was able to get Montrezl in foul trouble. And then by the time Marcin got in, he had to draw so much attention. Guys like DeRozan and Gay were getting to the rim, and they didn't want to leave him. So he's just presenting matchups like you got to think. I mean, even like Golden State is going to have a problem with LaMarcus if he just goes in and plays the way he plays. And what's interesting, Rick, when LaMarcus first came over, he was really, really struggling, like to the point where it was like, I don't even see you on the floor. And he and Pop had to kind of have this like, let's get along type of moment.
Meeting
right?
of the minds.
Meeting of the minds. And Pop always just was equal opportunity offense. Let the ball find your energy. We move, we cut. We're the Spurs. And LaMarcus was like, bro, I sit down on the right block. I get my jump hook off. I go pick and pop. I get my shot off. And Pop has allowed him to just go sit on that block. Mm-hmm. And he's allowed him to go pick and pop. And then he just says, I'll work everybody else around what you do. You know what I'm saying? And that's it's been working. He's scoring points because he's a guy, he's a creature of habit. Timmy D would run into pick and rolls. He would post, left block, right block. Left block, he was face up game. Right block, he would back you down, shoot his little jump hook or spin back to the baseline. He was just, you'd see him in an array of places, or he played through Manu. But LaMarcus is not Timmy D. He's not going to be that type of guy.
Well said. All right, the one other team I wanted to get to in result before we get to our picks for Friday night for all 9 games against the spread and the over-under is the Boston Celtics losing to the Miami Heat 115-99. They were down at one point in the first half by 26. I know I say that early in the third quarter by 26. I think they were down by 18 at the half. Yeah, I think it was 18. In any event, down early. Now, this is a team that over the previous, I think they'd won 5 in a row. They'd swept at home 4 games. They had not been behind in a single quarter. They had averaged 30-plus assists in the 4 games. They were dominating. They won those games by an average of 20.5 points. And coming off the bench, Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, finally looked like they had found a groove. They'd gotten comfortable with their new roles. And I looked at Miami and I said, look, Miami's going to be well coached. Boston is coming off of a back-to-back. But there's no way in hell that if Boston just plays with half of the collective synchronicity that they have in the previous 4 games at home, that Miami can compete with them. They just can't. They can't. And yet, Miami beats them going away. And we got the little shoving match with Jaylen Brown and Marcus Morris. I don't make a whole lot of that. In fact, I'd rather have a team that's getting its head beat by Miami to have a little bit of issue with each other or what's going on. Nonetheless, and I said, it hurts me because this was the one game I picked for sportsbetcollective.com for all the reasons that I said. I said the days of I said the Celtics have had better runs than they've had over the last 4 or 5 games, and then given you a what the bleep was that performance. But I can't see it happening against Miami. Not now. Not at this point in the season. Couldn't see it. And what happened? They gave us yet another one of those what the bleep performances. Help me understand what I didn't see, what I didn't anticipate in Miami being able to put that kind of because this wasn't, one thing, if they had lost a close game, whatever, okay, I get it. They got run. And Miami offensively doesn't have the weapons to run the Celtics. It was the first game in, I don't know how long, the Celtics didn't even reach 100 points. It just frustrates me to no end. Help me understand where I went wrong so maybe I won't go wrong again.
There's one guy, Dragic goes out, and there's a guy who turns into a point guard by the name of Justice Winslow. Mm-hmm. And Justice Winslow had struggled to his career, to say, put it lightly, from where he was drafted, because he didn't have the ball in his hands and he cannot shoot the basketball off the ball. If Goran Dragic has the ball in his hands, he's pretty ball dominant because the guy's pretty good with the basketball. Dwayne Wade has the ball in his hands, he's pretty good. I mean, dude, it's Dwayne Wade. But the reality is Justice Winslow is 20 times better, 20 times more engaged because he's a guy with the ball in his hands now. And his shooting has improved. His confidence has improved. And defensively, they become a monster. They become a monster defensively because now they can switch every screen, and they're 6'8", 6'9", and they play hard across the board. They play super hard. And just even when they're not scoring, they're just so good defensively that you don't have a matchup, Rick. And normally in the NBA right now, you move the ball around, you find a favorable matchup, and your guy goes and gets buckets. When you're playing against Miami right now, you aren't finding that matchup. Guys aren't getting those favorable matchups. And it's not necessarily pretty how they're doing it, Rick. I mean, Justice Winslow, bro, last night he has 13, 7, and 11. 11 assists. So he's just using his size. And when he goes to the hole because you got a guard on him because you want to pressure the basketball, once he gets downhill, he's still like 6'8" and athletic. So he's having a better time scoring over, I guess, a 6'2" or 6'3" point guard than a guy who's 6'8", and he's got patience to just run the offense. He just doesn't mess it up. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I get all that. Still, this is a team that just a couple games ago scored 82 points against the Hawks. They were getting their heads beat in on the boards by the Hawks. Meanwhile, the Celtics were dominating the boards. Well, this is what's so perplexing to me, is that after everything that Boston has gone through, because here's the thing, I hear all you're saying about Miami, and it makes a certain amount of sense, and that's where the outlier is that Justice Winslow, you didn't think he was a scoring two guard, and now he becomes a point guard, and now he's a scorer. Although I think he only had 13 against Miami, but he had 2 for 4 threes. That's a field day for him. But I get all that. I can't help but feel as if the outcome is determined more by Boston than it is Miami. Like if Boston plays its game and it plays the game that it's capable of playing, or even some modicum of its game, Miami doesn't really have an answer. You can't tell me that Miami has the wherewithal ability, both teams playing at their best, that Miami has the ability to impose their will on the Celtics.
All right, let me.
But if they can, then maybe I am giving the Celtics more credit than they deserve as a team that mentally can be locked in when it needs to be.
Let me help you help yourself right now.
Okay.
What made Boston special last year? Down the stretch, what did they kind of hang? What made them special?
Well, the whole season, it was a matter of that they had lost a couple of guys, and we're going to prove that we're better than you think we are. They played with a chip on their shoulder.
That's one. Scheme wise, what did they kind of do? What was their culture? What did they kind of hang their hats on? They were really good on the defensive end of the floor.
That's what I was going to say. The defensively, right? That's where they realized we don't have the same firepower without Kyrie and Gordon and all that. So we need to stay locked in. The young guys stayed locked in because Jason Tatum was their go-to guy. I think he averaged 14 points.
But they weren't great offensively, right? You'd agree. They weren't great.
Yes.
But they would show you enough where you go, This year, they tried to flip that deal.
Yeah.
You got Kyrie, got Gordon in the lineup, and they try to flip it and say, we got Brad, we're going to run, we're going to move the ball, we're going to be this offensive juggernaut. And those young guys said, man, I'm good enough to go score. I'm good enough to go average 20 in the league. I'm good enough to go. And I believe any of those guys are capable of going off, but they didn't mind who was the guy that ended up breaking out and getting the numbers. For goodness sake, it could have been Marcus Smart on any given night. And he's beyond capable, but you looked at that team and you just didn't know who was going to give you the offense, but it seemed like somebody would provide that. Well, Miami's having a similar deal, and I don't want to just throw them in the Eastern Conference Finals right now, but they're matching up, and you got a team that hangs their hats on the offensive end, and Miami's a team that hangs their hats on the defensive end. Mm-hmm. And now when the way you get yourself into the game is making shots, and you ain't making shots, it becomes a problem and you're playing uphill. Miami's comfortable with playing a nasty game. Justin Winslow, he's okay with not taking shots and being wide, stinking open. Like I guarantee that probably threes he made, he was wide open because the game plan says let him shoot because they're so big down low. And also, Bam Adebayo has gotten better. Now Spo is very quick, Rick, and you pointed out this early in the year with the Hassan Whiteside kind of nonsense, to throw him on the bench because Bam has come along and the coaching staff and everybody over there really believes in Bam on what he can do with his versatility. So now you look up and it's like, Whiteside, if you're going to play tonight, we need you. You make it special. But if not, come sit on the bench with me. Dwayne Wade, how do your knees feel tonight? You know what I'm saying? Like they're just
Wade gave the Celtics 19.
Exactly.
Dwayne Wade, 19 points. Against that athleticism on the wings. What the hell?
You don't know. You're right. But you don't know. You don't know who's going to show up. But you know one thing. They're going to defend.
Well, and you also know that Spo's just going to go with the hot hand. He's not going to play favorites. He doesn't have to. He's not worried about giving a particular guy a certain number of minutes. If you got it going, you're going to play. And if you don't, I get all that. Again, though, I would think the same thing with Brad. And they had just come off of playing the Pacers. Now, Pacers don't play a particularly fast pace. You would say they kind of like to dirty it up a little bit. They like to play physical. That's one of their strengths. And they beat them 135-108. I'm looking at some of the teams. The Nets don't play up and down. You got to work to beat them. They'd beaten them by 20 plus. They'd played teams. This is what threw me off. The Mavericks. You have to execute to beat the Mavericks. The Grizzlies play a slow down, dirty game. They'd beaten them. They'd just seen a number of teams that are of the same ilk of Miami, and they'd handled it. That's what made me think, okay, to your point, they've realized, okay, we got to shift our mindset. We can't think of ourselves as just outscoring teams.
Yep.
I was convinced that they'd learned that lesson, and apparently not. That's what just killed me about the Heat performance. I was in the car for most of it. I'm yelling at my radio. What the? I was so ticked. I was so mad. Anyway, all right. Speaking of Sports Bet Collective, and this is me yelling at the radio, me getting all hot and bothered about a Celtics Heat game, which normally wouldn't matter, but let's be real. Betting on sports makes the games a lot more fun to watch, gets you engaged in a way that nothing else does. And we are here to give you our favorite NBA picks for Friday night at sportsbetcollective.com. The insight that we're going to give you can't find anyplace else. If you go to sportsbetcollective.com, the first pick is free. You can also sign up for their newsletter with free weekly picks from top experts in every sport: NFL, college football, college hoops, hockey. You want to check in with them, especially with the NFL games coming up this weekend. And so there is a credible cast of media experts, professional sports bettors, retired athletes, and just sports-obsessed entertainers that have been doing it for a while. So whether you're a seasoned sharp or a total sports betting beginner, sportsbetcollective.com can provide you an affordable way to help you beat the odds, no matter the size of your bet. So I do this throughout the week. We do it here on Fridays, but you can find all that at sportsbetcollective.com. Now, have to go back to our picks last week. As I've said, since you and I have been doing this, we have never been below 500 until last week by my man, Mr. Hollins. Went 9, 10, and 1. I went 12, 7, and 1. The push was the Utah-Cleveland game. The over-under was 208. They finished right at 208, so that was the ultimate push. But overall, you're still kicking butt, as am I. You're 95, 74, and 1. I'm 93, 73, and 1. I'm right on your tail. So this may be the week where we take the lead. And so we begin there with the... Every team needs two things to win. And we begin there with the Atlanta Hawks visiting the Philadelphia 76ers. The Atlanta Hawks are getting 12.5 points. We'll go back and forth. I will start. Look, the 76ers, the one thing they've done, if you look, they're not very good against winning teams. I believe they have a losing record against winning teams. But teams under 500, they like to beat the spit out of them. So I am going to lay the 12.5 points. I'm going to go with the Sixers. But I'm also, the over-under is at 232 by Bovada. And I'm going to go under that. Now, these two teams played at the end of November. The Sixers won, but it was a close game, if I'm not mistaken, and well under 232. So I'm going Sixers, laying the points, but I'm going with the under. Where are you?
I'm going Sixers, and I'm going with the over.
Next game, Nets visiting the Toronto Raptors. The Brooklyn Nets are getting 9.5 points as the visitor, and the over-under is 222. Where are you going?
I'm actually going to go Brooklyn right here, and then I'm going to go with the under.
I'm right there with you. I believe this is going to be a slower game. That's the way the Nets like to play. The Raptors are happy to play that way. And 9.5, I just feel as if that's too much. By the way, the Raptors are one of the better teams when it comes to over-under. They go over more often than not, but they're also very happy to play at the pace that the opposition likes to play at. So that's why, in spite of their overall record, I am going to go under. And if I'm not mistaken, when they're at home, they actually go under more often. They're like 7-10 or something. They're happy to win at home, but not necessarily blow teams out. So I'm with you. All right. The Pacers are visiting the New York Knicks. The Pacers are giving the Knicks 8.5, and the over-under is 219. Pretty simple for me. I will go with the Pacers. I'm going to give the 8.5. I'm going to go with Indiana, and I'm going to go with the under. I just had a chance to see the Knicks live against the Blazers, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is struggling mightily, largely because they're trying to see what they have. They're trying to see what Moutier has. They're trying to see what Hezonja has. It's really kind of displaced Tim Hardaway Jr., and my feeling has been for them to win, he's got to be hot. And I just saw him in the locker room after the game, and I can tell it's wearing on him. He's struggling in a lot of ways with trying to find his role. He's only playing 31 minutes. He's averaging 20. He's their leading scorer, averaging 20 points, and he's averaged 16 over the last 10 games and shooting below 40%. All kinds of wrong. I don't think they go home and that changes. The Pacers just got beat by the Celtics. They're going to want to. They got a point to prove. But the reason I'm going under is simply because I don't think that the Knicks are going to score enough in order to make the over. I think the Pacers win handily, but I don't see that as being a big scoring game necessarily. So I'm going Pacers and I'm going under. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going to go Pacers. I'm actually going to go over. They've been scoring the ball a little better, picked up that tempo. So I'm going to actually go over.
I can see why you would do that. The 219 is a little bit tricky, but I'll stay with what I've got. All right. The Cavaliers are visiting the Houston Rockets, and the Cavaliers are getting a big 14 points, and the over-under is 216. What do you have?
I'm definitely going Rockets. I'm going to take that. I'm going to go over. Just think Houston, they're just kind of running the ball up and down. But I'm going to go over.
Here's the thing. Cleveland doesn't get a whole lot of their offense from their three-point shooting. What offense they get is from the paint. Now, one of the things that Houston uses to separate themselves is they not only shoot the three well and put up a lot of points there, but they also defend the three really well. They win that battle. Well, Cleveland doesn't rely on that for their offense. And meanwhile, Cleveland defends the three fairly well. So I think that Houston ends up winning, but I don't think it's a blowout from three-point range. When they start just raining threes on you, that's when the games ultimately get out of hand. So, Yeah, for all the scoring that Houston does, I'm just looking at what they've done of late, and when teams play slower for the most part, I'm going to go Cleveland in the 14, and I'm going to go the under. I'm going completely against the grain here.
Your world, brother. Your world. Your world.
All right, so the next game, Dallas Mavericks at the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Dallas Mavericks are getting 5 points, and the over-under is 224. The Minnesota Timberwolves got a huge emotional bump from the departure of Tom Thibodeau, the arrival of Ryan Saunders as the interim head coach, his doing things on behalf of his late father, Flip, running his favorite play the first game. They squeaked by Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City.
Hey, I swear every time I pay attention to an Oklahoma City game, they lose, and somehow they are third in the West. I swear they always lose. Like, I always notice them losing.
All right, so this is what I know about Dallas. They don't play well against super athletic teams, and they are much better at home than they are on the road. Nonetheless, I'm going to take Dallas. I'm going to take the 5 points, and I'm going to go with the over because I believe these teams offensively are going to push it rather than lock it down. Neither one of these teams is a lockdown defensive team. The execution of the Mavericks, I think, gives them a chance against the Timberwolves. I think that emotional rise that they got, there may be some carryover, but I don't know that I see Andrew Wiggins replicating what he did the last game. Could be wrong on that. I also think the length of DeAndre Jordan can cause problems for Cat around the rim.
Yeah, I'm going Dallas, and I'm going over. I like how this is so hard.
I get into the explanation. You're like, yeah, it's pretty evident to me. This is the way I'm going.
This is so hard for you, Rick. This is so hard.
Well, there are so many elements to consider, and figuring out which ones are going to be the prevailing factor is a challenge for me. All right, Charlotte Hornets are visiting the Portland Trail Blazers. The Charlotte Hornets are getting 6.5. The over-under is 221. Where are you going with this one?
I'm going Trailblazers, and we're definitely going over. There ain't going to be too much defense that night.
Yeah, my only question is, can Charlotte put up the points? Because Kemba Walker is not shooting the three. I think the loss of their big man, Cody Zeller, has had a huge impact. Since Cody Zeller has gone down, Kemba Walker, he was 3 for 18 going in the last game, and I want to say he was like 1 for 6 in their last game. Like, he's 4 for 20 plus when it comes to 3-point shooting since Cody Zeller went out. I don't think that's a coincidence. So I am going to go Blazers. I'm going to lay the 6.5 points, and I'll go over with you. I think that either Portland will score big or the Hornets will at least get over 100, and that'll be enough. All right, let's go to the Lakers at the Utah Jazz. The Lakers are getting 8 points, and the over-under is 216. Boy, the Jazz have been up and down, but they've been more up than down when it comes to playing at home. We still don't have a LeBron James. We still don't have a Rajon Rondo. We don't have a playmaker. And I do like the up and down. I like the pace of the Lakers. 8 points seems a lot, but the Utah Jazz, when they win, they're not close games. When they have it going, they're blowing teams out. I'm going to roll with the Jazz. I'm going to give the 8. And you know what? I'm going to go under because these are both
so hard for you.
These are both under teams. So I'm taking Utah. I'm laying the 8 points, but I'm going under.
I'm going Utah, and I'm going to go under.
Woo! I convinced you. See?
You didn't convince. No, I think with my own mind, Rick. You just take this so personal. Like, I think with my own,
Yeah.
My mind was made up before you, Rick.
Okay. Last one. Chicago Bulls visiting the Golden State Warriors. I will be attending this game. And I just saw the Bulls against the Blazers. The Bulls are getting 15.5 by Bovada. And the over-under is 219. Where are you going?
I'm going with the Warriors. I'm going to take the Warriors, and we're going over this thing. We're going over this thing.
You know what? I can't argue with you on any of that. The Bulls just struggle in scoring for stretches. No one has forgotten. Fred Hoiberg, basically the last straw was when the Warriors absolutely destroyed the Bulls back in Chicago.
Oh, yes.
Now, I don't know that they're going to destroy them to that level again, but the Bulls just don't have three-point scoring. And Zach LaVine is going to try to get things done, and he may get his numbers. Chris Dunn, I thought, did a terrific job of closing down.
Hey, can we get Laurie Markin in on the podcast? Can you get him?
Yeah, my buddy just had him for Sports Business Radio. Just had him has a podcast coming out. He just did one with him. I'm actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Chris Dunn on. That's the next guy.
I'll roll with Chris Dunn. I want to hear his story.
You want to hear Chris Dunn's story?
I want to hear his story, Rick.
Okay, I am on that. We're going to have him on. I don't know, but sometime soon. That is in the works. Also, I want to get Robin Lopez on too.
Oh, that'd be a fun one.
He is fun, and you know I feel for him. He's kind of in a gray area in this rebuild by the Bulls.
Ask him the Disneyland story in college. I need to hear justice from that. I need to hear from their point of view.
I'm gonna put that down. Disneyland story. What with both the Lopez Lopez twins
skipping
being there?
practice for to go to Disneyland.
Wow. Okay, we will get to that. All right, so we're both going Golden State, and we're both going over, and that does it for yet another episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. Again, you can follow Ryan at the Ryan Hollins, me at Rick Bucher on Twitter, and the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. If you enjoy the show, or even if you don't, drop us a rating. Review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. All you have to do is screenshot your review, which means like how many stars did you punch? Tweet that to us at Bucher Friends, and you'll be entered for a chance to win some free prizes. We just gave away a Jerry Rice signed autograph, or a Jerry Rice autographed football. I have some swag, a little swag bag that we're putting together. That will be our next prize, and we will put it out at Bucher Friends, what we're giving away exactly. In the meantime, in our next podcast, we've got NFL action this weekend. I will be joined by the great Will Blackman, won a Super Bowl with the Giants. You can see him on NFL Game Day on NFL Network. And the insight that he provides you, especially when it comes to DB and wide receiver play, which has been a huge influence on these games, is second to none. So we'll bring all of that to you in our next podcast on Monday. In the meantime, thanks for listening.